Dun, dun, dun. Damon, I need intro music, because it's just me talking. So, hey, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Manufacturing Monday Motivation, right after this wonderful, incredible, amazing Thanksgiving holiday. Damon, my friend, how are you, dude? How's everything going over there?
Doing well.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. I know, Now, hey, I want to give a congratulations to our dear friend Gene Jones and the Boilermakers for hitting the Big Ten championship. So, hey, how about a round of applause for Purdue? Way to go for our friends in great state of Indiana. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Michigan is next on the list.
Next victims to go down. So, hey, Nicole Donnelly, happy Monday. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great. I have had so much turkey this week. I am just full of turkey and cranberry sauce, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
So. Well, hey, I know you're going to be gobbling on our program today, so we have a ton to discover here with our dear friend Edward Garza. Edward from El Popular in Indiana. Edward, happy Monday. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Hope everyone else is doing fine after I had 4 days, so that's 4 days that comes once a year.
Right.
It's enjoyable.
And as a manufacturer and as an entrepreneur, those days, they don't come very often, do they?
Yeah.
It's like, man, you take those days when you can grab them, right? Yep. Absolutely. So, hey, I want to give us, so we've got folks popping in. Drop your comments. Let us know that you're here. Love for you guys to connect with our friend Gene from the Purdue Manufacturing Extension Partnership, Nicole, Edward. We have a lot to cover here today. So I want to kick things off. Hey, how about we've got Whitney here today. Whitney, good morning to you. Happy Monday.
Hey, Whitney.
Wonderful. Dan Bigger's in the house here. We've got Diane is here. Diane with TAC. So, hey, Diane, happy Monday to you. So, guys, let's kick things off. So, first off, I want to talk about how important, through COVID, pre-COVID, we would have never had this conversation. I've had the honor and privilege of spending time with all of our panelists here today in person. And so I just want to talk about how great it is when you can take these online virtual relationships and turn them into in-person. Damon, you and your wife, Gene, I know you're going to be shocked by this. Damon let me stay at his house for a weekend. Goodness gracious. I don't know what he was thinking, but I stayed at his house.
Gene, he still showed up today?
And we're still friends, And so, Gene, you and I met in Chicago a couple months ago. Edward, I've had the honor and privilege taking a tour of your manufacturing facility. Nicole, you and I have been together. And what the great thing is, you guys are workout junkies. I've seen Gene. I've seen you hitting the gym. Nicole, you and I have worked out. You are just a maniac working out. Damon, I've seen yours. Edward, tell these guys, what's your workout regimen?
It's real simple, because I only have about 5-10 minutes a day, but I try to crank out 40 to 50 pull-ups and as many push-ups in my little office a day, but that's about it. I wish I could get cardio in, but yeah, that's my workout day.
Well, I'll tell you, when you meet Edward, he's just, Gene, all of you guys are just so fit. And I just think what's important here, we could actually have a full session just on fitness, on maintaining, Edward, you're talking about, taking that family time, this, nice 4-day weekend, spending that quality time. And, as an entrepreneur, it is just a little bit stressful, and having that balance. And as far as like exercising, and I've had the honor and privilege of working out with everybody on this stage here, in checking out, Edward's facility. So I wanted to just give it a shout out there. But Edward, let's talk about El Popular. So El Popular is a family business, third generation, started in 1925. Can you please just give us a little background on your company? Your grandfather started it. Let's get a little background on your company there.
Okay, so my grandfather migrated from Mexico we think now things are a little sketchy because it's hard to get a lot of documented information. We believe he came into the United States back in 1922. We have border crossing information that shows he was very active going back and forth. He did own a business down in the San Antonio area for a little bit. But he did come up north. He started a business in 1925 in East Chicago, Indiana, which is what used to be a really strong steel mill environment.
Sure.
And so there was a lot of Mexicans working in the steel mills, but there was no Mexican food. And that was sort of his forte. So he started manufacturing just a small handful of products. And those products are still manufactured today. So he was into making chorizo, a mole sauce, and a hot chocolate. So it's if you can imagine a hot chocolate in a block, and he was also making queso fresco. So the only items we don't make today is the queso fresco. But interestingly enough, even though I had a 4-day vacation, I guess, I was down in central Indiana talking with the Amish because they're building a cheese factory and they're looking for someone to distribute Mexican cheese. So I was talking with them and looking at some machinery down there. And so maybe if things work out, I may get back into the cheese distribution business. So just to make a long story short, my grandfather would make these products in his storefront, and then he would go out onto the corners of East Chicago and actually in the city of Chicago on the corners and sell food. That's how it was done back in the day. Well, as time went on, he had 4 sons, and they were involved in the business. They started with a wholesale Mexican food company. So they were up to about 400 to 500 items. A lot of them were imported. A lot of them were also private labeled under the brand El Popular. As time went on, they basically were really focused on the city of Chicago. By 1998, my grandfather passed away. His 4 sons took over the business. And as time continued, the brothers started to sell their shares ultimately to my father. So in 1981, my father became sole owner. My brother and I started working with my father in this business. By the year, we continued down that path until about 2002, and that's when I took over the business. I laid everything on the table and I analyzed it, and I came to a conclusion that the best and easiest and fastest way to get old is to continue this business model, because it was a lot of drivers, a lot of warehouse people, office people, production, sales. I can go on and on and on. And I decided to really focus on what the hallmark item of the company is, and that was chorizo. So my goal was to open up a USDA meat plant and start to go beyond just the region of the Chicagoland area. So that's been the focus ever since. And so today we have distribution in approximately 30 some odd states. We don't saturate those states, but the idea is that we continue to grow in all those markets, which is what we're currently doing. I am also looking at, and this is where Gene came into play, is the Purdue offered different opportunities with grants, and we applied for a meat and poultry processing grant, and that's how I got involved with Gene's program at Purdue. And so today the idea is, how do I grow this business? And one way that we're looking at is to expand our facility. And that was part of the grant, was how do we use those funds to expand our footprint and also look at investment of equipment. In turn, that's going to do a lot for bringing in more employees, being able to pay better wages. It'll do a lot for us. And so that's currently the process that I'm in.
All right, man, nice. That's fantastic. Nice. So again, guys, if you're just joining us, happy Monday. Hope you had an amazing, wonderful holiday long weekend. Drop us a note. Let us know that you're here. We would love for you to connect with Nicole. We have Gene Jones from the Purdue MEP, Edward Garza, owner and president of El Popular. So Gene, we're talking to you from the Purdue MEP. For folks out there today, can you please share with everybody, if they're not familiar with the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and more specifically the Purdue MEP, just share a little bit. What is the MEP and what's going on at Purdue?
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. That's a great story from Edward, and really enjoy hearing it. Purdue Manufacturing Extension Partnership, our customers are small to medium manufacturers in the state of Indiana. We focus on essentially any service that will make small businesses in Indiana more effective and more efficient, moving to advanced equipment, as Edward described, helping clients connect with funding sources that help them achieve their goals. I think Edward was referring to the state of Indiana's manufacturing readiness grant. That is, something that's coming from the state, and we helped him put together a proposal for capital equipment, and I think the state of Indiana was matching 50-50 on that capital equipment.
Nice.
Grant. So kudos to our great state of Indiana to help small businesses like El Popular advance. And so essentially not only Purdue MEP, but the 50 other, there are 51 MEPs in the nation, the 50 other MEPs in the nation, they bring expertise to a small business that a small business doesn't need or particularly have on staff continuously. So when that expertise is needed, whether it's lean, quality, leadership, how to use collaborative robots, automation, whatever type of advanced skill set is required, we bring that to the company to help them for that defined period of time.
Absolutely. And we've got a nice comment here from Dan Bigger saying, hey, I love working with MEPs and they are great resources. We agree 100%, Dan. So,
Yep.
All right. So guys, and again, I'm going to give a shout out to our dear friend, Gene Jones, Navy man, served our country proudly for many years. So Gene, thank you for your service. Great job. And so it's an honor and privilege having a relationship working with Gene. Edward, I want to come back to you, my friend. You talked about, so grandfather started the business in the 1920s, came here, and just think about the fearlessness that grandpa had to come to a new country, maybe, second language, and work in the streets of Chicago, East Chicago and Indiana, and just delivering amazing, incredible product. Now, you've shared with me a wonderful story that I'd love for you to share with everybody. When Edward was 9 years old, watching Saturday morning cartoons like we all did back in the 60s, 70s, Damon, I know we sat there watching hours of those great Saturday morning cartoons, but Edward, you took a little different direction than most 9-year-olds. You knew it was in you, it was in your blood. You want to be an entrepreneur. Can you share what was going on one particular Saturday morning? You were watching cartoons and somehow the entrepreneurial bug hit you. Can you share that story with everybody?
Yeah. So I had an older brother. He was about a year and a half older than I was. And so he always obviously got the first opportunities on everything. So my dad asked him if he wanted to make some money on the weekends, and he said, yeah. So he went to work mixing spices. But after about, 6 months or so, I think he got bored with the idea. But every 2 weeks, he had a check. Now, it wasn't much money back then. God knows what it was. It could have been $20, $30 in a check, but to me, that was like winning the lottery. So one morning we're watching cartoons, and I knew my brother was supposed to get ready to go to work, but he just was laying on the couch. And my dad looked at him and said, "Aren't you ready to go to work?" And he said, he was just humming and basically not really wanting to go. And my dad looked at me and said, "Do you want to make some money?" I said, "Let's go." And so we took off, and that's where my life started, was mixing spices. So the company makes a chorizo blend, and part of that blend, what we call our secret green spice blend, is a combination of about 12 different spices, and only family blends that particular part of the blend. And so that's basically what I did on Saturdays. I made that blend. But it's been in me to continue. I think I mentioned this to Kurt. Last year I had turned 59, and I sat there and I thought, boy, I started 9 years old. I've been in this for 50 years, and the company will be celebrating 98 years this January. So I thought, boy, I've been in this for longer than half the history of the company. Which, for a second, and I believe I still have a lot of life left in me. So it's an interesting journey, but you don't think about it. You just do it. You get up every day, you do what you do, but you don't think about the history. Now, that's talking about history. Back in 2011, Mitch Daniels was the governor at that time, and he recognized the company down in Indianapolis as the oldest Mexican-owned business in the States. And so you walk away from that thinking, wow, that's a long time. That's, you don't think about those things. And he mentioned that his interns did research, and as far as I could tell, we're the oldest in the United States. So even with that knowledge, it doesn't mean a lot. You just keep going forward. And that's what the legend of El Popular continues to do.
Yeah. I love that. And so, Nicole, you come from a lineage of, you're fourth generation entrepreneur, in all different businesses, and so, for Edward to continue on with a third generation, and Damon, I know, you in your world, it's almost sometimes cliche, like that second or third generation doesn't carry that legacy successfully. What do you see from your perspective as far as like carrying on a century?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, because it rarely gets the second generation even. And then you just look at longevity. First of all, businesses lasting as many years as yours has, and then moving to the second generation is really, really pretty special. So
yeah, and I think it's really cool how you've carried on the legacy, staying really true to your grandfather's vision, but also making some really strategic choices.
Yes.
Really difficult choices to cut on the number of products that you are offering. I mean, that is a huge risk, and I think that says a lot about you as an entrepreneur and just your ability to honor that legacy, but also carry it forward in a new and visionary way.
What's interesting? We were talking about third generation. So my daughter would be fourth generation, because she's worked for the company, and she still does a little bit of work, especially in the summers. But when I took over the business, we needed a truck. So I went to a bank and I looked for a loan on a truck. And even though the financials were strong, they declined the loan. It was for about $25,000. And I said, why am I declining? He said, because third generations have a 97% bankruptcy rate.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I thought, wow, okay. I said, I still need a truck. He says,
wow.
Your personal credit rating is strong, so we'll grant you the truck through you personally. But it makes you think every day, boy, I hope that's not true, because I'm the last of the McCoys on this.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to be that one of the statistics of 97% failure if I could do something with the company. But no, that gives you an idea how risky. I don't even know what a fourth generation risk is.
Right. Yeah. It
goes down. It's only like several percentage points to get to the third generation. Right. And even sort of goes down from there. And I don't even know what the fourth is, but I bet it's at least only half of that. But I think it's 3% gets to the third.
Yeah.
That's like a 99-year-old trying to get car insurance.
Yeah.
It's not
happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to get life insurance at 99, right?
Yeah. I need some life insurance.
not likely, but so
can't be turned down.
That's right. So again, guys, welcome to our program Monday. We're having a great conversation with Edward Garza, the president of El Popular. So Nicole, you brought up a great point, and Edward, you talked about it. So took over the company 20 years ago, 2002. And Nicole, you were talking about how he really streamlined things. Edward, can you go into a little bit? I mean, that had to be a big leap of faith. Maybe, I don't know if there were still family members or what that took. That was a courageous move that you made. Can you talk about that? And then let's lead into some of the other challenges. And then I want to pull in Gene. We're going to talk about some of the services that you've taken advantage of with the Purdue MEP. But talk about what was that transition when you first came into the company as in 2002, and then making that big transition by streamlining things.
So that was a needed to be a very calculated risk in making that decision, because you went from between 400 to 500 items down to basically about 12.
12.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
12.
but
Wow.
the collateral
Amazing.
really was the employment of the people who worked at El Popular. There was probably close to 40. And by the end of that day, they were down to 6. So there was, and then you still had, a small fleet of trucks.
Right.
You had, I still had, so basically I looked at business. I can almost write a book on business. Basically, you need 3 things. You need increased sales, find a way to continue to increase your margins, and how do you lower your costs? If you can accomplish all 3 of those, you just went to college on a cheap scholarship.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. And so I looked at it from that perspective. I look at the movement of product, and I didn't see the justification. Plus, I knew that if I focused on one item, because as an entrepreneur, I didn't want to stay in Chicago. I had this ego about wanting to be from coast to coast. The only way to do that was to really focus on one line item. So that's what I did. And it was, there were, even in the manufacturing, we manufactured this sauce called mole. And my father used to sell it in a 8-ounce, 16-ounce, 32-ounce. He had a 64-ounce container, a 9-pounder, and a 16-pound. And I looked at all the expense of all the variety of jars, the caps, the different labels, all this inventory of things. And what I did is I reduced it down to one product. And I remember my father was still involved in the business. He was still there. It wasn't like I bought it and he disappeared. He continued to work with us. And, he told me this was a big mistake. Well, it was like killing his grandchildren. Wow. These are items that his father started, and
Right.
So
Yeah.
what I did was I took all these items and I calculated every item in ounces. And the following year, I did a study of how many ounces of this one item we sold versus all these other items in ounces. And believe it or not, they were equal. And the thought that I had, the theory I had, was that when people bought El Popular mole, they were looking for that flavor profile. They didn't care what size it came in, as long as they could get it. And that sort of supported my decision on cutting these items. But it was very trying, because not only did my sales were up here, they dropped. My costs were up here also, and those dropped. It was a matter of where is that balance to make money. And
I love that you actually use the data to guide your decision making. I mean, in marketing, that's something that we always do all the time, is you look at the data and see what is the market telling you. And I think that is so key that you actually took the time to do that. I mean, so anyway,
it was not an easy decision to make. It was very difficult. And then you had to make sure you succeeded to prove others wrong.
Right.
Because there was a lot of people that were, when you're looking at 400, 500 items, and one day they're off the grocery shelf, and you've had all these people for decades who have been buying those items, and now that's not there, they're calling, where's this product? Where can I get it? Why did you stop selling it? Why? It was a difficult time.
Wow. And we've got, a couple comments here from Whitney. That must have been so hard cutting, especially so for, this is a great conversation, because with entrepreneurs and manufacturers, so much of it is family oriented, generations. There's, fathers, mothers, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and when you bring that to the table, it gets emotional. You get married to your products sometimes more so than the solutions. She has a great question here. Whitney, thank you for joining us today. Edward, did your profit increase at all, even though those sales announces were the same?
That's a good question. I got to tell you, it was pretty lean for the first couple of years because in distribution, you want to sell as much as you can per stop.
Right.
And let's say on average, I was selling $400 per stop.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I might have been selling $50 worth.
Wow.
So it was a steep hill to walk up. Right. So that meant I had to really put a lot of faith in my sales reps to start really pushing the product more and more to get sales per stop to go up. With time, we did. I expanded on some of the varieties of what we offered, and that helped increase sales, and we continue to do that today, but we still stay within the realm of the meat industry. Now, in that same breath, I'm starting to focus on some other items, but instead of El Popular doing the distribution, now we're giving that distribution to other people, which has been very helpful.
Well, all right, lots to unpack right there, and I absolutely love this. So again, the having the courage to take that leap of faith, and what I love what you're describing for entrepreneurs is staying in your lane.
Yeah.
So many times, Damon, we talk with folks, we do our trainings and workshops and stuff, and we talk about, hey, when you try to be everything to everybody, what happens?
Nothing
to no one, right? And so, I love, and you talk about like the different jars, you cut costs. So there's a lot of dynamic there. So let's slide into this, Gene. I want to pull you into the conversation here. So as you're working with manufacturers at the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, I know at Purdue, you guys have a dynamic team, whole list of rock stars and different subject matter experts that you guys work with. What are the types of services that you guys provide? And where I want to go is you have a guy like Edward who's just like laser focused, nose to the grindstone, and being an entrepreneur, let's face it, is lonely. You're in a silo, you're trying to make decisions on your own, you have family, it's emotional. Talk about the support that the Purdue MEP and just MEPs in general, but the support that you guys lend and the types of services to help someone like Edward here.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kurt. And to keep it focused on El Popular and Edward, in this case, there were three different types of services provided. First was the proposal support services that I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. Someone like Edward, who essentially went to business school on his manufacturing floor and in his office, there's, sharp, hardworking, smart person. But there's just so many hours in the day, right? There's only so many lessons that you can pack into 24 hours, maybe leave a second in there for sleep. In this case, someone who specializes in writing of proposals and meeting proposal criteria and requirements could be helpful to submitting a proposal to get a 50% reduction in the capital equipment that one might need in order to make your manufacturing process more efficient, right? There's the whole lean category. What waste can you reduce from your manufacturing, make it more efficient, reduce your expenses so that you can raise your profits. So there's one. Business feasibility studies is another area that we can support a company and supported El Popular because as Edward mentioned and Nicole supported, you need data to make decisions, and sometimes it goes back to that time thing. You need some help pulling in the right data in order to make informed decisions, not guaranteed decisions. Edward took a bunch of risks along the way, calculated risks, but the data supports those calculated risks. So there's another way we help. And then finally, Edward talked about the plan to make the product, take the product nationwide. Well, part of taking it nationwide is to make it visible. Not, what is it, Kurt? Don't be the best kept secret. Let's not be the best kept secret, right? And so, I think either you or Damon or Nicole are better suited to talk about how We've supported it with you all's help and guidance. You were the expert team to help in this case associated with digital presence enhancement, we call it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gene. And a couple comments here. So Whitney, she's working at Welker, great company down in Houston. So, and again, just so many manufacturers, what is it, Damon? 75-80% of all manufacturers are 20 employees or less.
Yeah.
Well, odds are that's a family business. Nicole, your father, Jim, great manufacturing company. He started from scratch, turned it into a great powerhouse. Diane drops another great comment here. Change is difficult. It changes us. However, we can't become better if we don't embrace these challenges. And then Dan Bigger drops a great comment. You got that right, Gene. We can only do so much. So, Edward, let's come back. So what inspired you? What motivated you to reach out to Purdue? How did you make that connection? And then, Nicole, we're going to pull you on stage. We're going to talk a little bit about Edward's web presence and how we some things that we tackled on the website. But Edward, what inspired you to reach out to Purdue where you're like, hey, you know what? I could use some help here.
So earlier I was talking about a grant, and Gene also mentioned a grant, a readiness grant. The grant that I was applying for was a federal grant. It was I believe it's called the Meat and Poultry Processors Grant. And it's because back during the COVID, there was issues with food supply. And the government is looking for companies in the meat industry to produce more, whether it's pork, beef, or poultry. So the Indiana Meat Processors Association announced that there was a grant, and I wanted to get involved in this grant. So this grant, you have to use grant writers. They write on the grant, on the webpage of the federal government puts out, it says, do not attempt this grant on your own. You will basically fail. You need So I did call the Indiana Meat Processors, and they offered 3 different sources for the grant, or grant writer. Mm-hmm. And I had called the first 2. They were more of independent companies, but they had already been inundated with a lot of requests for the grant. Mm-hmm. Plus, we were running out of time. Mm-hmm. Usually, grant writers need 6 weeks. This grant was supposed to be turned in within, I think it was 2.5 weeks. So on there was Art, who was part of the MEP. His name was on there. So I called Art, and he immediately set me up with a young lady who was a grant writer. What was really good about this was that I believe, if I remember the numbers, I think the MEP covered, 80% of the cost of grant writers. Well, not only did I need a grant writer, I needed a feasibility study writer, and I also needed a business plan writer. And all 3 had to be basically certified professionals. Mm-hmm. The government sort of requires this. So that's sort of how I got involved with the MEP. And then I spoke with Gene, and we talked about basically my social media. And that's where I got together with Kurt with B2Btails. And we started that whole program going back probably 6 to 9 months ago. And that's where Purdue came in, was again a helpful hand, because they also provided a grant for that program. And that's sort of how I got involved with the Purdue MEP.
And that's fantastic. And thank you, Edward, for explaining that. And so, and again, just give a shout out to Gene and the team at Purdue. And so I'm going to rattle off a few names. Gene, Edward just threw, let's give a shout out to our dear buddy, Art Thomas. We've got Michelle Beck, we've got Julie, we've got Bill, Kyle. I mean, you just really have a rock star team. you guys are really blessed, and being in the engineering state, or at one of the top universities in the country here at Purdue. But Gene, can you talk about your team real quick, and then Nicole, I apologize. Then we're gonna dig into the website. But Gene, just talk about your team at Purdue, and just what I want to do is just anybody out there listening and manufacturers like, hey, this sounds really exciting. I didn't know about this MEP network, or I didn't know that these resources were available. Just go in a little bit on some of your teammates.
Yeah, sure. I mean, all 51 of the MEPs are at the core are alike with regard to quality and lean services and other manufacturing support. But there are also some variations, and the variations that you just mentioned is Art Thomas. Art Thomas focuses specifically on the food industry, manufacturing within the food industry, whether it's food processing certifications that are required, or other types of support. Business studies or certification were required. We have a marketing team. You mentioned Michelle, and you mentioned Julie, we also have Kyle. Kyle is we call it digital 4.0, right? Making the transition to where your machines are essentially networked. I mentioned before that hopefully those machines are efficiently and reducing the waste in the company, but they're also communicating data, that Edward and other companies need in order to further make their process more efficient. So what Kyle does is he does assessments and implementation studies associated with collaborative robots to lift components, so that cobot can work 24 hours a day instead of for one shift. Automation to get the components to a particular place. Warehousing, the new automated, I'll call them trolleys, but instead of having a forklift, you have a trolley carrying things where they go to increase efficiency. And additive manufacturing. Additive manufacturing, probably not something that Edward uses, but there's another specialty area for Kyle. And and we don't forget the human aspect of it either, right? Mm-hmm. In the last few years, there have been a lot of let's say frontline workers who've been elevated to supervisor positions, especially in the state of Indiana, where unemployment rate's been low for a while, even before the post-pandemic surge. And so sometimes they need I'll call them soft skills. They need soft skills in order to help the company be strong at the in this case on the meat packing line or the production line.
Yeah, and Damon, we had the privilege. We had Jeremiah Sinks on the show. Man, we got to have Jeremiah back on. That was just such a powerful experience. Man, just spending quality time with him is just learning moments galore. And then, of course, Renee Stewart, she's just a rock star, very passionate. And the great thing is just any MEP that you encounter, it's just, the unwavering commitment to helping manufacturers like, Edward and the rest of the manufacturers that we collaborate with. Nicole, we've had, times where, our friends at Louvers up in Chicago, they're like, it's like having these MBAs at my disposal without being on the payroll. So it's like, I love working with the MEPs. Nicole, talk a little bit about when you came into the program, into the project here, and you met Edward. Talk about from the web presence standpoint, what did you see, and how did you see things from your perspective?
Yes, absolutely. I think any manufacturer knows very well that, if you have to make a capital investment, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. And the same is true for marketing, right? Anytime a company wants to, get involved in marketing, it's an investment. It's a big investment. I like to encourage people to think about it that way, because it's really an investment in your brand. So we came in and, Edward had indicated that he really wanted to increase his digital presence online and really try to focus in on reaching the distributor audience, reaching those distributors. And so we really wanted to create an experience for those distributors so that when they came to his website, there would be a very clear pathway for them to be able to learn more about El Popular, the services, and answer some of the biggest questions that they had. So our goal and purpose really was to create a place for those distributors to get those questions answered so that it would serve two purposes. One, it would be able to arm their sales team with sales information that they could use right now to help those distributors understand and learn what were those key differentiators that El Popular has that make them different from the other folks in the market. So there would be an immediate sales impact by creating this content for the sales team to use. But then also at the same time, creating the same content that would be used to build that thought leadership, that brand awareness, brand salience over time. And I think also something really cool, I think, is everyone who's probably seen from this interview is Edward is such an engaging founder. Like his stories, his personality, that just his moxie and all of those qualities, you know, to be able to create something on his website where we could show and scale those wonderful qualities so that more people could see him. And the best way that we wanted to do that was through video. So not only did we create some really great, you know, blog content, we developed a learning center where distributors could come and learn and get their questions answered, but we also incorporated some video footage of Edward so people would really get to, you know, see, feel, understand the founder. And you know, people connect with people in business. In B2B, people make up a huge part of that. It's the relationship, right? And so the more we can make that wonderful Edward magnetism be,
right,
you know, made available to everyone, I think it would really help more people be drawn into his brand and want to work with him. So that was kind of our approach, was just to first identify the audience that we wanted to target, what were their pain points, problems, and challenges, and then create some really awesome content that spoke to those, that would scale the sales team and create some what we call evergreen content that will live forever and continue to grow momentum as the months, years go by.
Was it Evergreen or Edward Green? One of those two, right? So, and like, how about this? Whitney says Moxie. And so, again, as you guys can tell, Edward is a captivating storyteller, great entrepreneur. Edward, talk a little bit, you know, when you and I met, there was a little challenge where you're like, gee, it seems like my website's more geared towards consumers. And that's really not what what you were trying to do, the direction you're trying to go. You know, it's great from a brand recognition for the consumer to see your product. Then they would equate that or see it on the shelf at the grocery store. But you weren't really trying to drive traffic where people are going to call you and, you know, sell the ones and twos. So we made our intention was to make a little transition from a B2C, business to consumer, over to a B2B play. We dug in like some of your keywords. I know you had some frustrations in the past where like, hey, maybe this keyword thing isn't working out, but just share a little bit from your perspective of what we did.
Okay, so I guess what happened is B2B opened up my eyes and really showed me how old I really was. I'll explain that.
We're about the same age, right? Not Nicole, but us dudes.
How antiquated my marketing thoughts were. And I'll give you a quick example. Back in the day, before technology, if you wanted to get your product into a store, it was all based on consumer demand. So, for example, let's say you walked into a grocery store and you didn't find this brand that you've heard about or you liked or what have you. All you had to do was walk over to the manager and say, you know what, I'm looking for this brand, this type of product. Can you get it for me? And immediately they would go source it. They'd find out El Popular, okay, what's their phone number? Can you bring product in? We've got a customer looking for the product. Well, that's all changed today. Today, they don't really listen to the consumer as much because they don't have the ability to source it like they used to. Today, a manager, basically, it's either we have it or we don't have it. You know, if you go to a manager at a Walmart and you ask for a product, the guy will practically just, laugh at you.
Right.
Because there's no way you're going to be able to bring that product into a store. So what happened is I was focused on the consumer. Although I wanted buyers to ultimately buy it. So my thought is, if I could get it into this store, it will start to just spread out. Well, I'm finding out that's not the case. I'm finding that the buyers today are the ones who are searching out for certain products. And so the game had to change, and I really B2Btail has really opened my eyes to that. So now today we're not as focused on the consumer as we are the buyer distributor. And so we're cultivating that right now and really anticipating to see some good results. So the foundation has been set.
Yep. So, and let's go here. And so, and just, we're talking about our kids before we went live. And so Edward's daughter is at med school. I know, Gene, your daughter's looking at med schools. And ironically, Edward, your daughter goes to med school right where Nicole's mother lives, which is so unique.
Right? So funny.
What are the
In fact, I found out about that while I was visiting my mom in Ivins, Utah. And Edward, I was on a call with him in her backyard. And I said, yeah, I'm in Ivins, Utah. And he said, no kidding. My daughter's going to medical school. And I'm like, you're kidding. There's a medical school literally 2 blocks from my mom's house.
Wow.
And
it's in the desert.
Yeah. So it's an hour and a half, 2 hours from Vegas.
Yeah.
And here Nicole is sitting like literally blocks from Edward's daughter.
Wow.
But Edward, Abigail, you mentioned Abigail earlier, 4th generation. And so she's had a footprint on the business. So everybody out there, so if you're in the Eastern time zone, Nicole, here's a warning. I'm just giving everybody a warning right now. If you're like, I'm a little bit hungry, it's lunchtime. I've been hanging out with you guys instead of lunch. If you are hungry, I'm going to warn you, you might not want to watch your screen because I'm going to pull up Edward's website. And if you love amazing, authentic Mexican food and you're a chorizo fan, hey, don't blame me if, so Nicole, I'm just giving everybody a little warning here. So we're going to go live. But Abigail had a little footprint on the website beforehand. Edward, you have an amazing, incredible website. But what we did is we wanted to speak the right, we call it, how do you speak the right language to the right buyer? And again, before, was just speaking to that consumer, we want to make a little transition. So, Nicole, I'm going to pull up the website. Let's talk a little bit about some of those call to actions. We have some nice catchy lines, and then we'll go to the Learning Center. And so let me share screen right now. And can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, man, I'm hungry, Kurt. I want some chorizo.
Where my daughter comes into play is that she took all the photography.
So there's mouth-watering, plant-based options on demand right there, Damon. Look at that. Spices and seasoning. Those are the spices that Edward was making at 9 years old. There's the mole paste that we've been talking about. So again, just a great, make your chorizo meal unforgettable. I absolutely love that. Nice call to action. Again, there's family heritage right there.
Great images.
Look at this. I mean, isn't this just what a classy, talking about the tradition of the family story going back to 1925. Nicole, anything that you want to share here from your perspective?
Oh, it's just beautiful. The website, just the colors really immediately draws you in. And, from this, we created a distributor page specifically for distributors. Right there that we put on the nav menu. So as a distributor comes, this was something that was not on the site before. So a distributor comes to the site, there's a pathway just for them. And here, we have calls to action in every module. This module here talks specifically about all of the things that are important to those distributors. They care about quality, they care about lead times, they care about price, logistics. And so we created content just about, those, calling those out very easily for them to quickly understand. And then we also wanted to tell them what the process was going to be like, so they would know what to expect working with El Popular. So we created that module there. This next module is a video of Edward talking about what the benefits are to purchasing directly from the manufacturer, so they can get to experience Edward directly. And then,
you know what? I'll play it for just Edward, I'm going to embarrass you for a second. I'll throw on play for just a second here. How's that?
Yeah, and the way that we did this, I think, is a really scrappy way to create video. We basically recorded a Zoom interview that we had with Edward, where we came prepared with questions and topics that we were going to interview him on. Recorded that, and we're able to create the video from that interview and the blog post directly. So this is a really affordable, efficient way that businesses can get started with content marketing, and it's just a super efficient, quick, easy way to do it. And these days, people aren't expecting to have a very highly produced video content, right? So
I still when I see companies spending thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars doing a video, it just makes me want to throw up because the video that you did there,
Right.
it does. It honestly makes me want to throw up. The video you did there is authentic.
Yep.
It shows your moxie, as you said earlier, and it really allows you to do that. Not only much less money, but how quickly can you get that done?
Exactly.
Comparatively, it can take a month or more to get a video done if you're going to do the production and everything else.
Absolutely.
And you could update that tomorrow if you wanted.
Yep, exactly. And you have to move quickly, right? Entrepreneurs have to move quickly. So, and then here we just have, all their questions answered really quickly for them. And then if you keep scrolling down, there's direct links to the Learning Center where we have some in-depth articles here on some of the top questions that we created that would help them understand more deeply, all the things that go into what, the benefits of chorizo.
And then I'll go up to the top here, Nicole. And what we did here in Edward loves, made in USA, shipped internationally. He's now expanding internationally. And so, Nicole, here's the Learning Center. So if you want to just talk about, I think this post here maybe. So just share, again, Damon, I love what you're pointing out. This was a Zoom recording.
Yeah.
So the Zoom recording turned into this great piece of content here. So Nicole, just walk everybody through how you and your team, how you tackle this type of content here.
Yeah. So two things. So we first put together a strategy with the customer where we have a brainstorming session and we ask them, okay, let's talk about what are the top questions that your customers are asking through each phase of the buyer's journey. And then we literally compile a list of all of those questions and objections that they hear. What are the reasons they're not moving forward to the next stage? And then behind the scenes, we do keyword research, right? So we want to marry what you're hearing directly from the market. What are the issues, problems they're having? And then let's marry that up with some keyword research. What are people searching for in Google, right? What are the top keywords that people are looking for? What are the opportunities for El Popular to be able to rank on the first page of Google for some of these keywords? So what we did is we basically put together a content strategy that combined both of those by creating pieces of content that are going to capture those, really targeted, important keywords to get those first page, hopefully higher rankings, right? And that also serve the purpose of serving the customer. So these are directly answering the top questions that they have. So now you have this piece of content, this article that Edward and his sales team can immediately use and share and refer potential distributors to right now. You want to learn more about what sets our chorizo apart? Here's this resource for you. And it's right there, can be used immediately now as a sales enablement resource. But then also, now you have this evergreen content that's going to increase your brand awareness, help you rank in Google, and over time gain momentum so that not only are you helping your sales team, but you're also building your brand for the long term.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm going to stop sharing. I want to be mindful. I know, man, we could talk all day. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. Edward, talk about the experience on your end, the process. What did you think of going through this? This whole digital transformation, as you described, new to you, trying to make connections with these B2B buyers. How, working with Nicole, myself, the team. How, what was the experience on your end?
Yeah, it was. You know what? It was. It wasn't a situation where you gave information to someone and then you waited weeks and months to get feedback. So we scheduled every Monday morning, we scheduled an hour to review and to build this foundation to get to what we have today. But it was, I enjoyed the process. At first I thought time is my biggest enemy. And so, but I know how important this part of the business is. It's more important than I probably should. Because I'm more hands-on. I'm having to deal with customers, with processing, the office, everything. And so there's another world going on that's important, including, which we really didn't talk about much, was LinkedIn. And that's where I have a weakness. And so all of that was brought to my attention. We worked on that. There's a lot involved in what I really didn't know. So it was very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, definitely connect with Edward. I think you have a fantastic profile now. So everybody out there, our friends on LinkedIn, or if you're catching us on replay, definitely connect with Edward. You want to connect with Gene, connect with Nicole, myself, Damon. But love what you're saying. Couple comments I want to give here. These old family photos are awesome. Great touch. Dan Bigger says this is giving me flashbacks to my days in the labeling industry. Right here we have Whitney saying, well done website. So again, guys, I want to thank you all for joining us here in the comments. As we wind down, Edward, you're Gene.
Yeah, I've got an announcement hot off the press here. This will be news for Edward. It's a small piece, but every piece counts. We're taking the El Popular spices and we are including them in promotional giveaway gift baskets that we're giving away at the Best in Indiana Manufacturing Awards luncheon.
Nice.
Congratulations,
Indiana Chamber. So we're a sponsor, and Edward, the support, large and small, never stops, right? So one of our guys is going somewhere to buy your spices today and take those to the gift baskets.
Nice.
Well, Gene, thank you for the awesome news, man. That is fantastic, man. Nicole. We might have to go out to Indiana and just get one of those gift baskets, right? So
I think we need to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna crash the party.
That's right. So I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I know we could chat all day, so let's wind down on this. Edward, your experience working with Gene, Art, all the rock stars at the Purdue MEP, your experience, do you feel more empowered? Do you feel that you're better off aligning yourself with the MEP network? Could you share your thoughts there?
I do. As a matter of fact, I have a note to myself to reach out to Gene because I have a question for him. But no, absolutely. As a small business, I've been referring people to the MEP.
Nice.
Because a lot of people don't understand there are resources out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taken me literally decades to understand that there are. Now, these are programs that have been coming on board with the state, so that's helpful. But knowing that those programs are there it's a challenging for a lot of small business.
Yep.
So.
Yep, it's very challenging. And again, our message, Damon, week in, week out, boy, you are not alone. Boy, and like you said, Edward, 1 minute you're your own HR department, next minute you're the finance department, next minute you're trying to figure out operations. Then you've got USDA certifications. I had the honor and privilege of taking a tour of your facility. I was just completely blown away, and just how you handle it and still have that great head of hair. Gene,
yeah.
Look at, man, all the stress that you've been under,
Gene's got more hair on his face than I do on my head.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing awesome. That's why, this whole entrepreneur thing didn't wear well on me, but you're doing great. So, first off, we want to thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for connecting with the Purdue MEP. I can't express how much I appreciate your trust, your friendship, the opportunity to be a part of your, this 100-year-old journey. I never take that for granted. And I just, Nicole, it was an honor working with Nicole. Boy, we gave you everything we had working on this project together and continue to do so. And just, we wish you absolutely nothing but great success. Gene, any parting words of wisdom for everybody out there, any manufacturers that are listening that you want to share before we wind down?
Yeah, just reach out to your manufacturing extension partnership. There's one in every state, not necessarily connected to the university, and also one in Puerto Rico, and find out how they can help you or how they can connect you to services. So thanks, and thanks to Edward for reaching out to us. Really enjoyed working with him and appreciate him referring us.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you to the entire team at the Purdue MEP. Nicole, any parting words of wisdom, anything that you want to share as we wind down?
I would just say, it's truly been an honor getting to work with Edward. He's just really such a inspiration, just the journey that he's been on. And every call I had with him, I learned so much. It was just such a pleasure to be able to support. And it's just so awesome to be able to market such a cool product, honestly. Yes. That has such a wonderful legacy. So just thank you, Edward, from the bottom of my heart for letting us support this project. It's been a joy. So
absolutely. Edward, any words of wisdom you want to share with anybody out there as we close down?
No, I enjoyed this opportunity to be online with everyone. And yeah, I continue to reach out to all these resources.
Absolutely. So again, Edward, we wish you nothing but monster success as we're coming into a new year. Congratulations to your daughter, Abigail, on her journey at med school, and we wish her the best. And so again, thank you. Damon, any words of wisdom? Just, dude, I don't know how we're so blessed.
I know it's just great to be able to share the stories of these awesome manufacturers like Edward and these long time companies.
Right.
It's just so awesome. They're around all of us, and just being able to share it and hopefully reach some other ones that didn't realize that the MEPs are out there and they have resources. That's really what I hope this do by sharing these incredible stories. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, and the great thing is, we'll close out on this, guys. It's just, our manufacturers are truly the heroes and the heartbeat, the pulse of our economy. They've, just carried our country for years and decades, centuries. And to see a company like the Garza family, what they've done for 100 years is, boy, if you're not inspired with this program, Damon, we need to get your pulse checked or something. Turn the pacemaker up. So, guys, we're going to close out. We wish everybody an amazing, incredible week. Go out there, just keep crushing it, just like our dear friend Edward is. And boy, just be someone's inspiration, man. Just, support and thank a manufacturer, and we will see you guys. Damon, we're back on Friday. We have another MEP that great story on this Friday. So we'll see you then. Guys, have a great day, and we're closing out. Gene, Edward, hang out 1 second.